Welcome to another episode of Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we're taking a look at a wild new SUV from Dodge, the Durango SRT Hellcat.
We also have a hybrid from Lexus and the latest iteration of Porsche's popular Cayman.
And in today's deep dive, we review the stylish Mercedes CLA.
The list of the most stolen cars in the UK over the last year has been revealed, with the Ford Fiesta proving to be the country's most popular car among thieves. 3,392 Fiestas were stolen in 2020, perhaps unsurprising as it continues to be the best-selling car on the market. Shockingly, however, the second most stolen car was the much more expensive Range Rover, with over 2,800 recorded thefts. The top five was rounded out by the Volkswagen Golf, Ford Focus and BMW 3 Series. Over the course of the year, over 74,000 vehicles were reported as stolen, almost 20,000 more than in 2019.
Buyers looking for a large premium SUV these days have plenty of choices from all of the usual suspects. Audi has the Q7, Mercedes has the GLE and Volvo has the XC90. And while each of these is now available with some form of hybridization, the original hybrid SUV offers something a little different. Way back in 2004, the old Lexus RX cemented the brand's reputation for building desirable hybrids, and the latest one is no different. Standing apart from its European competition with its bold Japanese styling, the big Lexus continues to do things its own way. Recently refreshed, the RX features a toned-down take on the rest of the Lexus lineup's striking design language. It still makes a bold first impression though, with a huge front grille and high waistline. It's a nice change from a lot of the copy and paste SUV styling we've seen lately, and that continues inside. It may not look quite as high-tech as some of its rivals, but everything you touch exudes quality. Lexus is bucking the trend in the cabin with fewer touchscreen controls and a lot more buttons, all of which produce some serious satisfying clicks as you push them. This smorgasbord of buttons will appeal to some, but those used to more minimalist cockpits may prefer to shop elsewhere. There is only one screen on show, a 12.3-inch touchscreen sitting atop the dash, with traditional dials remaining in place rather than an increasingly common digital replacement. Unfortunately, as is the case with the rest of the Lexus and Toyota range, the infotainment leaves a lot to be desired. It isn't anywhere near as slick as the systems available in its German rivals, but it does come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, allowing you to pretty much bypass the standard software. It's available as either a 5-seater or a 7-seater if you opt for the slightly longer RXL, but both versions offer excellent cabin space. Powering the big Lexus is a big 3.5-litre V6 coupled up to a traditional full hybrid system, producing a total output of 308 brake horsepower. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes 7.7 seconds on its way up to a top speed of 124, although the CVT gearbox can become droney if you work it hard. On the motorway though, the RX settles down to become a wonderfully quiet cruiser, but it's just as happy around town, making full use of the tried and tested hybrid system.
However, if you're after a large SUV that's quiet around town, you might be better off with the plug-in hybrid, a car that allows you to run on electric only for short distances. One such car is this, the Audi Q7 TFSI-E. with an electric range of 26 miles. That may not seem like a lot, but it should be plenty for most urban commutes. Like the Lexus, the Audi styling is centered around a huge front grille. But looking back from there, it certainly doesn't have the charismatic design of the RX. Inside though, it's every bit as up-to-date as you could want. Full of sharp angles and glossy materials, it feels much more modern than the Lexus. It also offers one of the best infotainment systems on the market, with bright, crisp graphics and logical menus. It uses 3 screens, one for media, one for climate control, and a digital cockpit sat behind the steering wheel. Like the Lexus, the Q7 is available with 7 seats, although the third row is definitely best suited to small children. Out on the road, the heavyweight Audi rides superbly on its air suspension, and its relatively sharp handling makes it a lot more driver-focused than most big SUVs. There are various driving modes on offer, as well as an optional 4-wheel steering system that helps improve stability and manoeuvrability.
The European choices still offer the best overall package, but the Lexus looks great and has a character of its own. It doesn't feel quite as modern as the competition though, and with more and more manufacturers now offering plug-in hybrids, it seems that the RX needs to catch up.
Every now and then, car makers make decisions that we can't quite understand. For example, a few years ago, in an effort to reduce CO2 and improve efficiency, Porsche ditched the Cayman's wonderful naturally aspirated flat 6 in favour of a smaller, turbocharged flat 4. Downsizing is nothing new, but when there was still a 6-cylinder engine available for the 911, it seemed like Porsche had given up on its popular mid-engine sports car. Now though, the flat 6 is back. This is the new 718 Cayman GTS 4-litre, the car we've all been waiting for. Available as either the convertible Boxster or the coupe Cayman seen here, the turboed 4-cylinder is gone, and in its place sits a mildly detuned version of the engine found in the ballistic GT4. As such, the GTS puts out 395 brake horsepower, 19 less than the GT4, and revs all the way up to an ear-shattering 7,800 RPM. Sadly, none of the GT4's chassis upgrades are carried over, but it does get the same sports exhaust. Perhaps unsurprisingly, fuel economy does take a hit versus the old engine, with the official average down at 25.9 miles per gallon, while CO2 is also up by 36 grams per kilometre. But for those environmentally conscious driving enthusiasts out there, the smaller engine is still available. For us though, this new GTS 4-litre is the one to go for. It comes as standard with a proper 6-speed manual gearbox and can hit 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 4.5 seconds, on its way up to a top speed of 182. It's quite a lot quicker than the old GTS then, but otherwise the rest of the car remains pretty similar. There are some subtle ways of telling this new car apart from lesser Caymans though. It gets some black detailing around the rear spoiler, diffuser and intakes, while the front and rear lights are smoked, giving the car a cleaner, meaner look. It also gets some motorsport-inspired 20-inch multi-spoke alloys, housing some cross-drilled brake discs or optional carbon ceramics. Inside the cabin, and it's all pretty familiar. It's largely unchanged from other Caymans, meaning you get a nice simple layout with the rev counter sitting right in the middle of the instrument cluster. The biggest differences though are the carbon fibre details and the vast quantities of Alcantara on show.
So then, does this mean this is the mid-engine sports car to go for? Well, the Cayman still has some stiff competition from this, the Alpine A110. More specifically, the latest S version, more powerful, lighter and stiffer, and gunning for the Cayman sports car crown. The standard model really shook things up when it was revealed a couple of years ago, and has no doubt been one of the reasons that Porsche has gone back to 6 cylinders. The new A110S, though, should keep Porsche on its toes. It still uses the same 1.8-litre engine from a Megane, but it's now tuned all the way up to 288 brake horsepower. Now that may not sound like much compared to the Porsche, but the Alpine is light, just 1,100 kilos if you spec the right bits. That means it pips the Porsche to 62 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds, although top speed is down at 161. It's cheaper than the Porsche too, although it does feel it. It's well built, but it lacks the sense of ineffable quality you find in the Cayman. To be honest though, unless you plan on spending most weekends blatting your Alpine around a circuit, the differences between the S and a standard A110 are negligible.
Both the Alpine and the Porsche are deeply appealing cars for keen drivers. But it's the howl of the Porsche Flat 6 that will stir the souls of most petrol heads.
And now an in-depth review of the Mercedes CLA shooting brake in this week's Deep Drive.
The CLA shooting brake is essentially in a class of one. There aren't any direct rivals from any other premium manufacturers, and there are a few estate cars around that can match in the style department. The car is renowned for its aerodynamic shape, which not only helps with efficiency and refinement inside, but also contributes to its sleek looks. The CLA is aimed at the style conscious. It's only available in the AMG trim lines. That means every model comes with a sporty body kit and 18-inch grey AMG alloy wheels. You also get lowered suspension and full LED headlights. Rather than more trim levels, Mercedes offers optional packs that bundle equipment together. The premium pack on our car adds the full all-digital instrument display, an upgraded sound system, 64-colour ambient lighting, keyless go, augmented reality sat-nav and illuminated door sills, all for 1,500 quid. The Premium Plus pack, that's another 1,500 quid on top of that, adds another set of extras including panoramic sunroof, extra seat features, multi-beam LED headlights and traffic sign assist. There's a driving assistance pack available too, which adds some extra safety tech should you want it.
So while we're on the subject of style, I thought I would bring you straight in here to another key selling point of the CLA, namely the interior. Now, we first saw this design in the latest A-Class and it still looks so impressive. It's got that wow factor. This one continuous screen that takes you from the digital dash over to the infotainment system looks really modern. The turbine vents look brilliant, especially when they're lit up. Big fan of that. And the little finishing touches and materials just all look and feel really classy. You can see around the cabin where your extra money is going.
After the break, Dodge's 700 horsepower SUV, the Durango Hellcat, and part 2 of our Mercedes CLA Deep Drive. Still to come, the Dodge Durango Hellcat, but first, part 2 of our Mercedes CLA Deep Drive.
One of the reasons you might be considering the shooting brake version of the CLA is because you need the extra space and practicality versus the saloon model. There's certainly more headroom for the people sitting in the back because the roofline doesn't fall away as quickly as it does in the saloon. Legroom is pretty good too, and there's plenty of storage space. Boxier estates ultimately offer more room, but the CLA is unashamedly a compromise between style and practicality. The standard shooting brake engine range consists of 3 petrol options, a diesel and a plug-in hybrid model. The entry-level 1.3-litre petrol has 134 brake horsepower and is badged the CLA 180. It can occasionally feel a bit slow, but we recommend moving up to the 161 brake horsepower CLA 200. The CLA 250 has a 2-litre engine with 221 brake horsepower, and the same 4-cylinder petrol engine is used with increasing amounts of power in the 2 sporty and very expensive AMG 35 and 45 models. The plug-in hybrid model uses the 1.3-litre petrol engine along with an electric motor for a total of 215 brake horsepower. It's pretty quick and makes a lot of sense for company car owners, and CO2 emissions of 26 grams per kilometre give it a very low BIK rating.
Now I have the 220D model here, which actually is the only option if you want a diesel in a CLA. Now, as much as diesels are becoming less and less popular, I actually think the 187 brake horsepower 2-litre engine that we've got here is a really good fit. It packs a good punch for overtaking and pulling the car along when it's fully loaded. It's also very quiet when it's cruising. Now, the fact that it can go 0 to 62 in 7.2 seconds and return around 56.5 miles per gallon just goes to show what a great all-rounder it is. Ultimately, the CLA shooting brake is all about style over anything else, and whether you want one or not will depend on whether you like how it looks.
On next week's Deep Drive, we check out the new Peugeot 2008. The Hellcat name has been adorning Dodge's most potent versions of its Chargers and Challengers for a while now. Using the same 6.2-litre supercharged V8, they're among the most powerful cars on the market, yet they're still spacious, comfortable and relatively practical. But what if you want something really usable? Something that summons muscle car performance but also lets you tow a caravan? Well, this is the answer, the devilish new Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat, the most powerful SUV in the world. It may be a practical 7-seater with acres of room inside, but under the skin this is every inch the muscle car. Under the bonnet lurks a supercharged V8 producing 710 brake horsepower and 645 foot-pounds of torque, as well as a truly unholy blend of Hemi-Roar and supercharger wine. Performance is predictably impressive too, with 0 to 60 dealt with in just 3.5 seconds, on its way up to a breathtaking 180 miles per hour. It'll do the standing quarter mile in 11.5 seconds too. Not bad for an enormous SUV. It's anything but subtle, but then Dodge's SRT products never are. The bumpers are bigger than the standard cars, as are the wheels and enormous 295 section Pirelli P0 tyres. Stopping this brutish heavyweight is a meaty set of Brembo brakes with 6 piston calipers at the front and 4 pistons at the rear. Inside the enormous cabin, the Durango gets more than a few hellish touches borrowed from its SRT siblings. There are Hellcat emblems all over the place, as well as some gorgeous chopped carbon fibre trim. Otherwise, it's all fairly standard Durango. Dodge says that the 2021 updates make the car feel wider, although lack of space was never much of a concern. It still gets 3 rows of seats with space for 7 people. The boot is still massive as well, even with that 3rd row in place. It isn't the most luxurious car in the world, but it more than makes up for it in performance. But how does it compare to the fast SUVs of Europe? Well, the go-fast SUV has for decades now been this, the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Like the Dodge, it uses a V8, although this time it's a comparatively puny 4-litre using a turbo rather than a supercharger. It's down on power too, 542 versus 710, but this is still a very fast 4x4. It'll almost match the Durango from 0 to 60, while its 177 miles per hour top speed is just 3 miles per hour lower. And while it may be smaller than the Dodge with seating only for 5 passengers, it is lighter, meaning the Cayenne is about more than just straight-line speed. In fact, show the big Porsche some corners and it will surprise even the most passionate SUV skeptic. What the Porsche can't do, however, is match the Hellcat for its sheer bombastic character. The Cayenne is much more grown-up and sensible, and while it can be great fun to drive, it's the Dodge that puts the biggest smile on our faces.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we check out the all-new Cadillac CT4 Blackwing.